Hello everyone, and today I'm going to show you how to permanently cuff a pair of pants. So this is a pair of pants that needs to be cuffed. I've marked where I want the hem to end here with some tailor's chalk. You're going to need some tailor's chalk, a clear ruler, and some scissors and basic sewing supplies for this. So I have both legs laying on top of each other flat with the ends lined up. And as you can see, this tapers a little bit. Typically, whenever you have a situation that's tapered, once it's cuffed, the leg is going to want to kind of bunch into the cuff, which is fine. But if you don't want that to happen, you can sort of come out at the bottom. Now, I don't have room for that because these have already been tapered and serged and everything. So mine's just gonna bunch a little bit, but you would sort of taper back out towards the bottom to avoid that. So with my tailor's chalk, I'm going to hold the ruler in line, perpendicular to the leg, in line with where you want your pants to end, and I'm going to mark each side of the pants. And the way that I'm marking here is just a quick and easy way to make sure that everything is lined up on all layers. A little tailor's trick for you. You want to make sure the ends of your pants are lined up, and I'm going to do a 1.5 inch cuff. So I'm going to place my 1.5 inch line on that first chalk line, and I'm going to mark down 1.5 inches. That's how wide I want my cuff to be. Yours can be however wide you want it to be. And then you're going to go down again the width of the cuff you want. So I'm going to go down 1.5 inches again. So keep in mind, depending on the width of your cuff, you are going to need a significant amount of extra leg room at the bottom to do this technique. And lastly, I'm going to do about 3/4 for the hem allowance. I'm just going to serge and turn this over. So that's going to be my cut line. If you didn't want to serge it, if you wanted to have actually a clean edge, you would go down again so you could fold it under. But and you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute when we're sewing, but I'm just going to serge the edge and stitch that under. So I'm cutting at that line there, and that edge I'm going to serge and clean. As I was saying, you could turn this under and stitch it down so it's all clean on the inside, but I don't mind the serged edge, and it actually also has less bulk to do it this way. So both of my pant legs are marked for the cuffing. And what's going to happen is there's 3 lines here. So when we go to the machine, after you've serged the edge, you're going to fold under at the center line. And you want that center line to be on the edge of your pant leg, and then you're going to stitch down your raw or turned edge of the pant. But we are going to go to the machine and see how it goes. You see I've serged that raw edge there, and I'm turning under. I actually think this is easier to do with the pants inside out. So I'm going to turn this inside out. I'm going to take off, if you have one of those attachments, if you are able to take off that little extra piece on your machine to make it more narrower, that works out. I'm going to turn under at that middle line. Only the middle line is where I'm folding. Everything else is going to remain flat. And I'm going to stitch right along the edge of that seam. Now, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can stitch close to the edge. This seam this stitch is not going to be seen from the outside because this allowance that we left ourselves, 3/4, is narrower than our 1.5 inch cuff, which I forgot to mention earlier. You want that final hem allowance to be narrower. It can be however much you want. You just want it to be narrower than that cuff. So I'm gonna slide my pant leg on here and stitch this down all the way around. You want to make sure that your side seams match. You can see here, since my leg is tapered, that wants to kind of bunch, but it's not a big deal because it's just going to give the illusion that my pant is kind of bunched into my cuff. As I said, when you have a straight pant, that won't happen, or if you do have a tapered leg and you don't want that to happen, you would want to taper back outwards on your side seams after the point where your hem is going to go, so that you have enough at the final hem to do your cuff, if that makes sense. Okay, and you can see my little bunching there. Again, that's once you turn the cuff, you're really not going to be able to notice that. As you can see, I do not use pens during any of this. So I'm going to turn this back right side out. And now I'm going to turn up at that next line to the outside of the pant. Sorry, this kind of got cut off here a little bit, but I am turning that up and I'm going to stitch in the ditch at the side seam. And you want to go to, but not through the edge of your cuff. You want to leave about 1/4, 1/8 of an inch to the edge of your cuff. So this will keep your cuff in place, but it will, since you're stitching in the ditch, you won't see the stitching, and it'll still give that illusion of it being a loose turned cuff. It keeps that distance there, that depth is the word I'm looking for. And you're going to repeat that on both side seams. So I've got the edge of my fabric is the other chalk line, and then I'm going to stitch in the ditch right here. The other chalk line being the third chalk line, but at this point it's pretty much, you'll be able to tell which chalk line you're folding at. Again, stitching in the ditch, which means just stitching right into that side seam. To, but not through the edge. If you go through the edge, it's just gonna make it look kind of flat, and you're gonna be able to tell that it's being like tacked down by something. And then you're gonna go to the iron and give this a good press. And there you have it, 2 permanently cuffed pant legs. And these have been pressed. You can see where the seam allowance is stitched down here, that serged edge there, and these will be cuffed at all times. They're stitched down on the side seams. They're stitched in the ditch so you can't really see it, but not through the cuff, so it still has that 3D effect, I guess. And now you have cute cuffed hems. I love cuffed hems for pretty much everything, so I do this all the time. Happy sewing, everyone!